Have you ever considered where empathy ends and self-destruction begins? Let's delve into this. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, is a fundamental aspect of our social interactions. It is the glue that holds relationships together, the balm that soothes misunderstanding, the bridge that connects human experiences. Yet, there's a common misconception that more empathy is always better. But is it really? While empathy is undeniably valuable, it's important to understand that without boundaries it can lead to self-destruction. Picture a sponge absorbing water. There's a point where it can't hold anymore and it begins to deteriorate. Similarly, when we continually absorb the emotions and struggles of others without any limits, we risk our own well-being. We become overburdened, stressed, and emotionally drained. So, is there such a thing as too much empathy? Let's explore this further in the next scene. Meet Sarah, a social worker who embodied the concept of empathy without boundaries. Her life was a testament to a heart that seemed to have an inexhaustible capacity to care for others. Sarah was the person who would always be there, ready to lend a hand, a compassionate ear, or a comforting shoulder for anyone in need. In her role as a social worker, Sarah was a beacon of hope for those she served. She was the one who stayed up late into the night to ensure a homeless person had a safe place to sleep, the one who skipped lunch to help a struggling family navigate the maze of social services, the one who sacrificed her weekends to support a vulnerable teenager battling addiction. But as Sarah continued to pour herself out for others, she began to neglect her own needs. She was so caught up in the whirlwind of helping others that she missed out on the simple joys of life. Her own health started to deteriorate as she ignored the warning signs of exhaustion and stress. She rarely took time for herself, for self-care, for self-reflection. Her relationships, too, began to suffer. Friends and family felt neglected, as Sarah was always preoccupied with the needs of others. Her once vibrant social life dwindled to a few hurried phone calls and infrequent visits. Her life became a paradox of connection and isolation. Eventually, Sarah found herself burned out, emotionally drained, and physically exhausted. She was a social worker who had given so much of herself to others that she had nothing left for herself. She was isolated, not by choice, but by the very empathy that had driven her to help others. But Sarah's story doesn't end there. In her solitude, she began to reflect. She began to understand that her limitless empathy was not sustainable, that it was, in fact, a form of self-destruction. She realized that she needed to set boundaries, to take care of herself first so she could continue to care for others. Sarah's story is a stark reminder of the cost of unchecked empathy. It's a cautionary tale that teaches us the importance of balance, of self-care, and of setting healthy boundaries in our quest to help others. Empathy, like everything else in life, requires balance. Imagine walking a tightrope. Lean too far to one side and you're bound to fall. The same principle applies to empathy. It's not about caring less, but about caring wisely. It's about understanding the needs of others without disregarding your own. Consider this. You can't pour from an empty cup. When we give too much of ourselves without replenishing, we risk burning out. And when we're burned out, we're not in a position to help anyone. So setting boundaries and empathy means ensuring that we can continue to care for others without harming ourselves. Think of it as a form of self-preservation, a necessary measure to keep the flame of compassion burning brightly. It's a delicate dance between being there for others and being there for yourself. Remember, it's possible to be empathetic and still prioritize your own well-being. Balancing empathy is not a selfish act, but a necessity for sustainable compassion. So how can we practice empathy with boundaries? Well, it starts with recognition. Recognize your own needs and limitations. It's okay to not be everyone's savior. You're not a superhero, you're human, and humans have limits. Next, understand that it's okay to say no. It's not a sign of weakness or indifference. It's a sign of respect for your own well-being. Saying no doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to know when you've reached your limit. Lastly, don't be afraid to seek support. You're not alone in this journey. Reach out to friends, family, or professionals. They can provide perspective, advice, and support. Empathy is not about self-sacrifice. It's about understanding and connecting with others while maintaining your own well-being. Remember, empathy without boundaries is self-destruction. But with balance, it can be a powerful tool for connection and understanding.